The Bellows, getting started in design.
All right, cut to edge of stage. Great. All right, color frost.
Check. 1, 2, 3. Check.
Stand by, please. House to half, house out, lighting cues 1 through 10, sound cues 1 through 10.
Hello and welcome back to The Title Block. I'm your host, Michael Kruse, and on this episode we present another session of The Bellows, a monthly informal discussion about theatre production that takes place in Toronto, this time in the lobby of the Theatre Centre, recorded on May 15th, 2017. In this session of The Bellows, host Christopher Ross this time leads a discussion with lighting designer Jareth Li, performance designer Shannon Lea Doyle, sound designer and composer Alex Williams, and yours truly, Michael Kruse, about getting started in design. You can find more complete bios online at thetitleblock.com, and of course, I encourage you to support the show through patreon.com, where you can help me cover more events like this and bring interesting local discussions to artists across Canada, as well as interviews with Canada's leading designers about their history and their craft. And now, here's the next session of The Bellows, getting started in design.
Hello, and welcome to The Bellows.
Thank you all for being here today. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional keepers of this land, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe peoples, the Métis, and the Mississaugas of New Credit. Thank you to them.
Absolutely. Hi, welcome so much. My name is Pip Bradford.
I'm Rebecca Hooten.
And then behind us we have our panel, which also includes Michael Kruse and Chris Ross. The four of us are The Bellows, and so are all of you. Our panel today is on getting started in design. Michael Kruse is answering his phone.
I'm watching you live on the internet.
Oh, that's
You're on the
terrifying.
internet.
Don't look at the internet.
Yeah.
Hi, internet. We love you. Give us
There's
little
a big
hearts.
delay. There's a
So
big
just to
delay.
let you know, we are, the microphones are not for amplifying, but for a podcast, which is Michael Kruse's podcast, which is theTitleBlock.com, and it is a wonderful podcast. We happen to be on there as The Bellows, but also a number of interviews with different
Designers, specifically
as well,
designers.
which, you know,
Michael
ties
Kruse
in
is very
nicely.
into design.
Yes.
And it would appear that so
Thank
are
God.
we, because we're having a whole panel about it here today. I don't know that we need to say anything else. We'll say that the panel is fairly conversational. If you have a question at any point, you can just be like, and there's a microphone right here that we ask that everyone ask their questions into. I'll have it, but I can only go so far.
Yeah. So please,
So
kind
please,
of step
feel
up.
free to step up and come see me. I'll be over here near
Again,
the
not
bar.
for amplification or to put you on the spot, just so that the viewers at home and in the future know what you ask.
Because otherwise it's so confusing.
Yes. We also want to thank the Theatre Centre for having us
Yeah,
today.
thank you so much, guys.
This is wonderful.
It's Amanda. She's your bartender.
Tip your bartender. She's a wonderful human being, and she's going to help us all have anything that we need. Well, like beverages, I assume. And I'm going to stop.
And also love.
Yeah,
also
love.
Without any further ado,
Yes.
I think that we should kick it to the panel.
Did you want to talk quickly about something cool that Amanda does?
Oh, I did want to say that Amanda actually just started like a homewares company, which is very exciting, and you're having a launch party here on Tuesday.
We do environmentally friendly, sustainable housewares. So we mainly work with linen. If you're interested in that at all, let me know when you come up to the bar. I'll give you my business card. You can sign up for our mailing list, and I'll send you an invite. You can come to our event.
It's pretty great.
Support local business.
Support local business,
Yay.
support local theaters. Anyways,
and
without any
yeah.
further ado, let's kick it to Chris and the panel.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. As previously mentioned, I'm Christopher Ross, and beside me is our illustrious panel. And by way of introduction, I'm going to start off with our first question. Who are you, and what do you do?
My name is Jareth Li, and I'm a lighting designer.
I'm Shannon Lea Doyle, and I'm a performance designer and a sculptor.
I'm Alex Williams. I wear a few hats. I'm a sound and video designer, and that's probably why I'm here. But I'm also a filmmaker, an actor, writer, director. So I wear a few hats.
Excellent. And my name is Michael Kruse. Besides being the producer and the host of the title block, which is a hobby for me, I was a lighting designer for about, 15 years, maybe 10 years. Left the business, and I now work as a paramedic north of the city, and still do this to keep my hand in the business.
Michael Kruse just got into med school, guys, on his first try.
There is that. Yeah.
There is that. Like,
yeah, it's busy.
So obviously a wide range of people and things. Did you always want to get into design, each of you, and how did you get into it? Starting from left to right, yeah.
Sure. I didn't always know I wanted to go into design. When I was in high school, I was planning on being a computer engineer on the software side, and somehow fell into a drama class, and things just went straight downhill from there, and now I find myself as a lighting designer, which is oddly enough not that different. I spend my time in a dark room talking syntax at a programmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think I would be a designer. I think I thought I'd be a lot of different things, but I went to school for sculpture. I think because I wanted to be a director, but didn't really know how to be a director, and so, or like go to school to become a director. So I was like, I'll go to art school and get a broader education. But then fell in love with sculpture specifically. So I ended up graduating, being like, okay, gonna make metal sculptures. That's what I want to do. And then found my way back into theater through design. So it was a bit circuitous, but
yeah, I think that feels common for some people. Alex?
I think I was always a bit of a dreamer, I guess, when I was a kid. Thinking about it, I've been thinking about images and sound for a long time. And I think it's partly because I was this kid who was a dreamer who just liked to, it took me a very long time to get home from school, actually. I would sort of take a long, circuitous route, and back in the day when kids could actually walk home. And I think also growing up on the prairies had a big impact in me. There's a lot of silence on the prairies, or kind of low din. So I often seek that in designs. I seek negative space. I seek silence, quiet, in order to give something dynamic range, aesthetically and emotionally. But I went to art school. I went to Concordia, and I went to Emily Carr, and now I'm a MFA candidate at York University. And I guess I've been thinking, but I would say that how I got into design really came from those kind of really early primordial kind of feelings about things, or that it was important to take time to consider and listen, and that was an element of storytelling that was really essential. I don't know, in some way. So, and I people in Vancouver, for example, where I lived for a long time, know me more as an actor, but I was acting at the same time as going to art school, so it sort of made sense. And from a young age, I loved the theater. I loved the sense of presence, that we are all here together, like we are now, to consider something, to consider the value of a story, and consider the social importance of it, the political and social importance. And so I guess meaning always kind of led where I was going, just chasing meaning most of my life so far.
I have a question for you guys. Do you guys want to be designers, or are you designers? Who's out there? Raise a hand.
What's the
Do you
question?
want to?
Yeah.
Can we get a woo 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 or something?
Sounds like a good question.
Okay.
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Just so we know who we're talking to, like
Yeah.
people who are probably
That's
work
cool.
in theater, I assume, or want to.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah.
Nods.
Oh, God,
yeah.
sorry.
And there are definitely a lot of things in that answer that we'll talk about soon about the process. But before we get too far off track, Michael, how did you?
Like every lighting designer, I think I was a frustrated drummer in high school. Because back in my day, when I started, most lighting boards were at least the medium mid-range were all manuals, right? So it was all about the buttons, all about the bump buttons, right? Park hands and all the ACLs and all that stuff. So I did that in high school, and I had a very strong drama program in my high school. I did a really interesting program in Kitchener, which doesn't exist anymore, called the School for the Performing Arts, which was a summer program for about 2 or 3 weeks, actually 3 or 4 weeks in the summer. It took, I think, the entire month of July. And we were at the Centre in the Square, which is a large touring house in Kitchener, state-of-the-art facility, quite spoiled. I was in for a big shock when I came to Ryerson, which was not quite the state-of-the-art. It was a bit of a shock. When was this last time these fly lines were changed? Like it was years. So it was a bit of a shock. Now if you went, obviously there's some Ryerson people in the house today. And I got the sense, because the crew there crosses over with Stratford as well, I got the sense that it was a really, it was a fun job. It was an interesting job. And lighting design was something I transitioned into because of the puzzle of telling a story, and in a way that was very abstract and supporting that. I never really had any original kind of ideas as an artist. I didn't really consider myself an artist. I was more of an artisan, but I was really interested in helping people tell the story and get into the interpretation of the script from a lighting kind of point of view. So that really interested me, and right from early in high school, that's all I really wanted to do, grade 9, grade 10. And I had a lot of supportive people, and obviously I went to Ryerson, which was sort of a, kind of a dream come true. And I, from there I just took off. So it was really, it came out of the technical kind of field. I liked the puzzle and the architecture of lighting a lot. Only later did I realize that it was really about telling stories, and that was an important part of live events, live theater.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how did each of you get your first design gig? What was that gig? And then I'll have a follow-up question afterwards based on that. But
no pressure.
What was it, and how did you get it?
Mine was for a show called The Long Red Road, and it came out of having worked with a director I'd encountered in school. I went to York University, and after that, after graduation, they came to me for the piece. Yeah, cool.
I think that my first design job came from a recommendation from someone who had worked with me in a collective creation situation, which is how I started working in theater, or not even really working, like playing in theater as a high school student. In collective creation groups where you're writing and acting and directing, and there's no real hierarchy or specialization. And then a lot of those friends went to York and Ryerson and decided to become theater artists. And I think that I think one of them just recommended me to a friend, or was doing a show and was like, you go to art school, so you should be our set designer. But didn't really, kind of just because I was in art. So I think it was half being thought of as a visual person and half because I had friends who were making theater. Yeah. I think it was called, it was a SummerWorks show.
One of those.
I don't know. Yeah, SummerWorks show, half theater, half dance. Cool. I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't very good.
Oh, I'm sure it was marvelous.
I think similarly, I had a kind of a collective creation experience, I think, in Montreal for a fringe show a long time ago. So we were doing absolutely everything. And I think kind of my first Toronto show was Ruth Maddock Jones and Marjorie Chan, who both brought me in on a show at Theatre Passe-Muraille because I was a filmmaker and we wanted, I am a filmmaker, and we wanted to document something. So I took on the role of writing, directing, doing sound design and video design, and I actually passed a kidney stone. We were in a production meeting because I had so many notes at night and I was drinking so much coffee, I became absolutely dehydrated. I can tell you, never do that. Also, you can't actually see because I was on stage too, so you can't video design. You need to either kind of be on one side of the game or the other, in a way, if you want to take the time to do that. So yeah, writing, co-directing, all that sort of stuff. So that I think that got me more into video design in particular because there weren't a lot of people, I guess, at that time really doing video design, and so I got some calls, and every year I get a call at SummerWorks. It was like, can you come in and just install the projector and get it focused and that sort of thing. So and now sometimes I work I work for PRG, which is a big sort of corporate outfit now and again to set up big shows and things like that. So.
Do you mean first gig ever or paid gig?
That's up to you to define, because that's part of the other question of when did you start calling yourself a designer?
Oh God! That's
so
like
if you want to call paid gig, that's fair. But
I can swing all those questions into one, and I can just get it over with.
Do it.
So my first one of the advantages of the School of the Performing Arts, and I can't stress how there were a bunch of Kitchener and Waterloo artists that came out of this program. Many musical theater artists, everyone I went to Ryerson with in '91, there were 5 or 6 in that class, or in 2.
Same here.
Yeah. Who like came out of that training program. And anyways, we were taught not just the mechanics of hanging a light, and this is a cable and this is how you plug it all in, but also sort of the rudiments of the communication of design. And so that was really interesting to me how you sort of put that puzzle together. So the very first show I did was Canterbury Tales for a community theater project, and I actually did a lighting design for it, which is a bit unusual at that level of community theater, like title block, drawing, paperwork, all that kind of mechanics again. And that was the first show I did. And then after that, I did several other shows of the same kind of approach, like not just sort of ad hoc, throw stuff together, but actual thinking about design. So I really was acting like a designer. I wasn't really interpreting things too much. I was kind of just going on Gestalt and what should it feel like. The first pro gig, I think, was in the middle of Ryerson. I lit some community theater show, and they paid me, $150 or something just to do the lighting. And I think it was called A Bed of Roses, and it was probably some British farce or something. I don't even remember. Did I read the script? I probably did. But who knows? And then it took me a long time to actually call myself a lighting designer, because I was working as a tech, and I was working as I was doing all the jobs you do just to pay the rent, right? And I was enjoying being a tech. That was something that I enjoyed doing. And until I decided to not work as an electrician anymore for good, I didn't consider myself really a full-time lighting designer until that.
Fair enough, yeah. So the follow-up question to that, and we can work in reverse order, is what do you think of that first design work you did now, and what would you change? What would you change about it? What have you learned since then? Maybe 1 or 2 things that you've learned since then that you wish you could tell yourself. way back when.
And starting with...
Yeah, let's go with you first.
So, well, obviously I left theater, so that's not a very good thing. It's one of the things I guess I learned late. But
To become a doctor.
yeah,
No.
Become a doctor is the answer to
There's,
that.
I feel like
Quite
there's
the
still
end.
hope
Don't
for
press
all of
kidney
us.
stone.
You're just a dream.
yeah, exactly. So I think one of the things that I did not get until later was this idea that a designer could be, especially a lighting designer, could be an original creator. This is something I did not get when I was first starting out. I was solving problems. I was doing that kind of design, right? Well, we need a special on the door. We need an effect here. We need them to be seen mostly. Whatever it is. I was very good at the photometrics and making, washes kind of blend together. But the idea of going, you know what, wouldn't it be great if we had this element that said this about the play, that made this sense in context? That didn't come to me till much later. And I really didn't kind of hit my stride until right before I left, I think, like a couple years before I really understood what my job was. Even though I was doing it professionally for many years. So, I think that the idea of being an original creator was the one thing I did not appreciate when I was younger. I don't know if I was ready to, but it was not something I think that was. It wasn't a sort of this unspoken secret, which I guess is the definition of a secret. That it's unspoken, but it was this. Like no one said you're an artist, right? I was a technician, right? Yeah. That's what I was, and I was applying it on a different level, I guess, or for different means. But no one called. I didn't call myself an artist. No one said this could be an art. Yeah. So that I think.
I still think of myself as a technician who very occasionally designs lights or who knows how lights work, so can put them up. So that's a really valuable lesson. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's kind of, I think, kind of similar. I think kind of seeing the whole aesthetic experience and of the story of the whole piece, kind of seeing the big picture, and seeing the elements, when lights rise and when that moment can only be said by that thing, and it depends on that thing. It depends on light in that moment for that story to come through in that way, whatever that moment is. And thinking about design elements, I kind of the play that we did, or the piece that we did, was very much dependent on the video in order to work. The video was really content, and so it was a window into an outside world. It was a piece about taxi drivers in Toronto, and kind of a remarkable set of circumstances in which Rob Ford, in some way, actually looked like a good guy and actually did some interesting, good stuff. Which was actually just to delegate and say, I don't know what this is. There are a bunch of people who actually know more about it. But it was a way of looking into, or inviting people into this community of taxi drivers. So we needed the video in order to do that. So the relationship between design that supports something or design that's content, and just finding those moments. And it became a real question about, what our role was on stage, and I think that's still a lingering question about that piece for me, is, where our place was, sort of figuring that out, where our place is in the story, what our places. But yeah, just finding out when, I guess, when can each element find its modest yet essential place. It's as though not that you scream something, but that it's like an offer. It's like, and that way you kind of come around the back door of someone and sort of, or just behind them, and they feel the sound or they feel the light behind them rather than being hit with it, so that it rises and then falls, and just finding out where those pathways are, I guess, is a continual process of interrogation and refinement. Yeah.
Cool. What do you wish you
What's
knew
the
back
question
then?
again?
What do you wish you knew
What do
at
I
the
wish
start
I
of your
knew?
career that you know now?
Well, I don't know if there's anything that was like, if only I knew. Like, maybe like you're doing a job and you should get paid for it.
That's a real good one.
But
Absolutely.
I was a visual artist, sculptor. Like, was like, I'm an artist, and really didn't want to call myself a designer for a little while. Because there was a kind of like divide in my head, because I went to OCAD, and there's like an art faculty and a design faculty, and I was like, I'm an artist. And I think it's speaking, like that sort of sense was about what you were talking about, like technician versus artist, and my profs were always like, specialists are tools, like be a generalist, run the room, you know? And so it's kind of like graduating with a sense of like being an artist is a important thing to hold on to, which I think is right. But I learned very quickly, which I think is helpful, that being a designer in a room, in a theater, like this community that we're in, is a lot about listening. And I think I sensed that, but like I think that it's a good thing to sense. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe that's part of it. I think there's lots that you learn.
Listening to the room is definitely a big skill. Yeah. Not everybody can do it.
Well, I think one of the things that I've learned over the course of designing the shows is, first step, lights. As a designer, you are a creator. You do contribute to the process. I think Michael touched on that a little bit earlier. And where I learned that was the first show that I had to do, where there was no set. Light was the set, and that's where there was no set designer. I was the only person in the room. So I had to come up and define and create all of these different spaces that would move the story forward and take us from place to place to place without the aid of anything but just the performer and some soundscape in the background. And I think the other thing that I've kind of learned over the course of my time is people rely on designers in the room to make choices. And it's okay, it's very, very okay to be wrong, but you don't know it's wrong until you've seen it once live, and then you can go, oh, well, I screwed up. Okay, that doesn't work. Throw it out, let's go back to the drawing board. That's my big thing. Don't be married to your mistakes.
And actually, Michael, go ahead.
Can I build on that for a second? One of the other things that I also, because I came out of a kind of fascination with the technology, I always felt like there was a certain sense of showing off, that the effect was really important, and you want to make it look beautiful, and that the rest became subordinate to that, and I think that's wrong. I think the design that is about solving problems and about answering questions and about supporting the play, and I think you cannot the design should be subordinate to the story, and I think ignoring that, which I did early on, resulted in some very odd choices and some choices that were distracting. Right? I remember using scrollers in the show when I was in high school. That was because there were scrollers. They were so cool. I mean, now it's all LEDs, right? Like, but like, and I know scroller. They were technology.
It's okay, Michael Kruse. Scrollers are still cool. Scrollers are still cool.
And we were doing live wipes on the site, like it was just a
Wonderful,
right? And this was not the class Menagerie. This was Streetcar Named Desire, with live wipes and scrollers on the thing. But we were figuring this. We were solving. I was figuring stuff out.
Yeah,
it
that's
was not
Lucy Williams.
Maybe that was the problem. I thought it was the problem.
Even as a technician watching designs, I still all the time I'm like, what if this, but with effects?
Yes, exactly. Because it looks, or even if it's beautiful, like just wanting it to be beautiful. Sometimes it shouldn't be beautiful. Sometimes beauty is not what you're going for, right? Sometimes it has to look dark and ugly and off-center and weird and or flat and because you're telling the story. You're not making things beautiful. You're not a window dresser, right?
That's
Please just to build on that, like I'm very suspicious of beauty. I love beautiful things, but I think they work well in an ironic mode or in a contrast mode. Like you're talking about trauma, and then you flip to something beautiful, and there's a kind of sanctuary aspect to that, or a place where we go, where we yearn for something, and that touches something kind of deep, I think, stirs us emotionally. So I think it needs to be earned. Beauty is always something I go, is that earned? Is there a contrast to that makes that, live? Is there a dynamic range? And I think that goes to the kind of confidence or the trust in the audience. Because if something's, I don't know if it's saccharine or something, that there's we're playing on different cultural ways of pushing against whatever needs to be pushed against in the play, right? So we're pushing against culture in some way, or good plays do, right? Push against something. So what is that place? What is being pushed against that then needs a breather or needs some other space to go to? And just a word about the kind of the huge tool set that we actually get in video, like, I work with Isadora and with Touch Designer and with QLab, and but Isadora and Touch Designer are like, you can just fall into those tools and go, wow, we can do this and we can do that, but it's like, just because you have a laser, cutter doesn't mean you have to chop a table to bits. You want to build the table, and and go and you're like, wow, look at this. Being wary of technology, letting the meaning pull the technology, not the technology lead the meaning.
Yeah, totally. So that's moving into process questions, which I'm very curious about. But not to structure the audience questions, but does anybody have questions on beginnings? Sort of how people get their starts? If not, that's fine.
Chicago song.
Or that.
Which?
Ultimately that. Okay.
We have one. Yes. We have one.
Right.
It's the beginning of the beginning question.
Amazing jacket is coming up.
I was wondering if any of you assisted as part of your things.
Yes.
Good question.
And how you got into that, what the process was to contact those people, or if you just knew them, or if it was a good experience, or if you regret it, or I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Tell us about your regrets.
Talk shit, it's fine.
No, that's a really good, important point. That I totally skipped over in my, I don't know, a friend of mine, asked me, Lorenzo Savellini, who's a designer,
Mr. Designer,
was like, you should assist me on a project. And that was kind of a magical moment. I think I went to a workshop he was giving on design, and he was doing some script analysis, and I was being mouthy, and he was like, hey, who are you? And so then I spent a summer assisting him on a show, and that was the beginning of an actually understanding what design was, and that it could actually be a career. So that was magical and lucky that I met him at that time. I think that if you like someone's design work, you should email them and ask to assist them.
Is that generally acceptable, just to hold email?
I do it all the time.
I've never minded it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I do it all the time, and I get jobs that way.
Yeah, it's totally true.
Worst I can say is no, I think.
Yeah.
Keep going.
For me personally, I spent 6 years at the Stratford Festival as an assistant, and that's where I learned a lot of more, probably about the process and technology than anywhere else. How you interpret the story is always going to come from you and your collaboration with the director, but there are those jobs out there if you go looking for them. Stratford or Shaw or places like the larger companies out there will hire assistants in certain departments. And it's a very valuable thing to sometimes just be handed a designer and say, here's someone you've got to work with. You've got to go develop a relationship with that person.
What is just a side note? What is that grant that people sometimes get to follow?
Do you mean the Compass Grant or the?
There's a Theatre Ontario grant.
There's a Theatre Ontario grant. There's a couple different grants that are there for people.
Opportunity grant or something?
There's a Trinity grant, I think.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
the mentorship.
And then you can pick your designer.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm free. Like, you don't have to pay me, or maybe you want to pay me, but I've got this grant. That's no one
Which
will
is
say
great.
no. No one will say no to that.
Big thing to look into.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Alex.
I was my stepfather's assistant for many years he was a sound mixer, and I hung around he ran a studio in Saskatchewan, and he's an Emmy award-winning sound mixer, and he actually, this is a great story, I'll just tell it as an aside, he actually was a musician and got his start by totally lying. He had a #1 hit in England, and then became like many people, just got screwed over by his producer. And so that by that time he had 2 kids and no work. The band had split up, and so he wrote a letter in the classifieds at the time saying, "Senior sound recordist returning from Canada seeks employment. Guess who calls? Abbey Road."
Yeah.
So he worked B and C studio, while the Beatles had A and stuff like that. So I still consider myself his apprentice in a way, because I just call him up and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Do you have a minute or two? So I think I was very, very privileged in that, with regard to sound. But if Thomas Ryder Payne is listening, even though we coached on a show at NTS, I'll still assist him in his next design. But yeah, I mean, and also, like, in video design, for example, it's still, like, I just worked on a show at Kent Stage, and it was an incredibly complex show, so I kind of feel like I'm always reaching out to community. I'm like, and this is really an important point, I think, is just consider all your peers, points of contact to go through things. So I'm like always calling Cam Davis. I have a friend of mine who's in Hamilton, who's one of the developers of Isadora, reaching out on forums, but also like particular people. I'm like, hey, how do I figure this particular weirdo, incredibly technical thing? So.
Yeah. I'd say that assisting is probably essential. I didn't do a lot of it when I was beginning. It wasn't until, I think about Bonnie Beecher, I assisted her on a show called Free Decay at Tarragon, and Peter Hinton directed. They were both, I only realized this now, because back then, I was just brand new. I didn't know the business. And, but they were just starting out as well. That was one of the first shows that they collaborated on. I think it was a breakout hit for both of them. Bonnie had been working for quite a number of years before that. But if you listen to the title block, episode number, whatever, you'll listen to Bonnie Beecher tell you that story. But
Bonnie Beecher will tell you everything.
Everything. But so I assisted her and a couple other people. I really everything changed though when I went to the Shaw Festival in 1997, and I can't speak highly enough of trying. If you're really serious about design, getting into a program at Stratford or Shaw. Now, for set design. Trying to be political here. Why should I be political? Because I'm not in the business anymore.
Bellows isn't into that.
Shaw, the lighting design apprenticeship at Shaw, because there were several different tiers. One was the first sort of brand new thing you get hired in is called the Jeffrey Dallas Assistant, and it was not endowed. There's a fund called the Jeffrey Dallas Assistant Fund that pays for the assistant. Jeffrey Dallas was the head of design at the Shaw Festival before he died tragically of AIDS in the 90s. I'm going to say the early 90s. It was the early 90s. Anyway, so you started as an apprentice, and you were assisting designers, but your workload is a bit lower. You get the smaller houses at Shaw, which are still complex as hell. The most important thing is you're in the room with the designers. Not only one designer, but a whole room of them. And that never happens. We're we're solitary beings, right? We sort of hulked over your hunched is the word, over your drafting table or your keyboard, doing things. You're never in a room with a bunch of people talking about design, talking about things. Talking about the fourth wall and what that means from a lighting perspective. Like, what is the fourth wall, man? It's like bouncing. It's like light bouncing off of the wall that's downstage. So how does that change 3-point lighting system? Like, it's completely different, and how you think about it, right? That was an entire conversation at a bar I had with Rob Thompson one night. But these opportunities don't exist when you're not assisting, right? When you're working by yourself. Now, if you come out as if you consider yourself an auteur, then that may not be for you because you have a voice that you want to realize. But I tell you, design is not just having ideas, it's communicating them properly. Mm-hmm. And to know the systems, to know the way to communicate with everybody in a kind of general way is it takes a little time, and you to understand how the paperwork system works in lighting, or how when to do a section, when to do insets for details in set or whatever it is, a drawing, like when should you do working drawings, when should you not do working drawings, all these kind of ideas about how you communicate your creative ideas are things you learn as an assistant and as an apprentice, and I think it's kind of an essential thing to do. The Stratford program had gone through, just a historical thing, had gone through kind of different waves of what your responsibilities were. Jareth can sort of talk about this, but it used to be a real apprenticeship program where you were really learning how to be a designer. Then it became more of a mechanical traffic cop kind of thing, and it's sort of getting back into that now, where you're really, they're sort of fostering designers to come back and design there. So I think assisting is essential part of your training. Maybe not right away. Maybe you want to pick your time, but I think that, cold call people, find people. There's a couple different, I just spoke with Rachel Forbes at Shaw, and she went through the Obsidian program, which started her entire career. And they paid for her to assist Astrid Jensen for a period of time, and then Astrid took her up and gave her some opportunities with the video cab, and her career kind of blossomed from there, right? So I think those opportunities, there's probably not enough of them, but if you can find one, it's essential.
You can find one. And if I may, especially to get back to the question about cold calling, if cold calling doesn't make you feel comfortable, then go to things, go to shows, go to events like this, go out, and that's where people come, that's where people meet. And also if you don't feel comfortable cold calling someone, ask someone to make an introduction. I know that Chris is always happy. I'm always happy to do introductions for people who want to meet designers. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are happy to do that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. Also, the Soul Pepper Academy.
The Academy.
Yes. Which is what I went through. So, did my first stint with Lorenzo, but then through that, he was like, you should apply to the Academy. Then in the Academy, spent 2 years assisting people, which is where I learned how to do all design, costume, lighting, set. It's just through picking it up through assisting people.
Mm-hmm. And if you're too busy, you have to make a living, right? And your job doesn't allow you to do that. It doesn't allow you to take off a chunk of time, which is actually money, right? It's like losing money. So, you can also ask someone, can I come in for a few days and just shadow you, just hang out in the room just for a few days, if you don't mind. This is what I'm interested in, and most I'm always welcome to that. I have a kind of priority to work with young Indigenous youth. That's my particular priority, but I'm always always open to people asking me.
Hi there, I'm interrupting briefly to thank those of you who have chosen to support the title block on patreon.com. I really enjoy doing the show, and I'm not going to stop while I have the time. But it does cost a bit to do the show, between equipment and web hosting, not to mention extra mic rentals to ensure that special events like the Bellows sound as best as I can make them. So I'm asking that you help cover these costs and help me to continue to capture the story of Canadian theatre design. Go to patreon.com/thetitleblogpodcast and donate a couple bucks an episode. It really helps.
Pretty good answer to that question. Bam. Okay, so into sort of your process. Now this is good because we have sort of a wide variety of departments and designers. But obviously all processes are kind of different depending on the show, depending on the director, et cetera, et cetera. So if you could explain your process, your ideal process, like I'm 5. Like explain it, pulling a Reddit here, explain it like I'm 5, make it as simple as possible, what takes you from the beginning to the end.
Okay.
Throwing you a curveball.
Right away, script. If there's enough lead time, I just do a quick skim, let it sit for a little bit, do another more thorough read. And on a third read, I actually go through and start sketching. And every now and then I do set as well as the lighting. So if I'm doing that, I'll be just going through and just sketching ideas of where it's just doodling, essentially. From then on, for lighting, what I'll do is create just a list of everything that I think needs to happen in the show, or all of the looks that I need to create. And from that, with the director, I'll start figuring out where all of the lights will need to go inside of the theater. And I'll be spending a lot of time in rehearsal, watching what the actors are doing, and just being a part of the conversations that are going on in the room, and figuring out, oh, that's an action, what's the flow of the show like? And that will take me into queuing of the show, and just reacting and anticipating what the direction a show will take you.
Yeah. Cool. When do you do your actual paperwork?
Usually before, I'll do it in a couple of chunks. I'll have one set that's before rehearsals have started, because now lighting plots are usually due before you've even started a rehearsal.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I'll come up with some basic concepts and ideas that I want to create with a director before that. And then the rest of that I'll leave open-ended. I'll find all of those out from rehearsal. And if a company wants to know, send us everything beforehand, I'll just say, you know it's going to be wrong. Here it is anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to change it.
Yeah, fair, cool.
Oh, that's a good question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because I know Stratford, their lighting plots and everything are due months ahead before the show even starts rehearsal.
Yes.
So how do you, as an assistant lighting designer, how do you collect all the information to create the right plot?
At Stratford, what happens is the designers for the shows will have agreed upon certain shared elements between all of the shows. And then usually the show-specific plot will only be due after they've had some time to be in rehearsal. So again, it comes in two waves, sort of everything that's kind of common to a lighting plot. Like there's going to be front light, there's going to be some top light, and then there's specials for a show, because all of the sets will be different. So you might need, say, a light for a painting in one show, or you might need different pools of light for another show. Those will come out of the rehearsal process, individual to each show.
And you just add on.
And we'll just keep adding on. Yep.
At Shaw, it's a bit different than Stratford, because you guys have a bit more of a bare bones approach down there, right? There's a lot more room to do what you want for your show. Is that correct?
Depends on the venue.
Depends on the venue.
Yeah.
We have I know we go to a negotiation, all the designers get together and do negotiation quite later in the process. It's later than set, certainly, but they get down to the point where they have a composite set design. All 4 shows are laid down on the thing, and they sort of find the minimum basic area that they all share. And then it becomes this kind of like horse trading. Well, if I take a cut off of here, can we have a cut off of there? And so we're all going to cut to this riser, and then we'll have an extra set to cut to that riser. So it's a much more comprehensive, much bigger plot, basic plot, than it is, I think, at Stratford. And then you're just basically, you're just putting in any kind of major concept, like this concept tells a story. Kevin Lamont would do things like these Svoboda backlights. The real ones are like the interlocking beam projectors. That's Svoboda. He would do a row of like pars on 12-inch centers, all the same color, and he would add that concept in. Because pars are cheap and you can put like 20 of them on 30 of them on a pipe and it's not a big deal. But then there'd be space for the left for like a light here and a light there. It was a much more kind of comprehensive process. So it's a really interesting kind of negotiation that goes on early in the process to come up with that kind of plan.
I guess I'll talk to something that's not lighting design.
Yes, please.
So also the interesting thing is I've never worked at Shaw or Stratford. I do a lot of indie shows and then like some main stage shows at like just sort of crawling my way up there. But of course, Soul Pepper, having that in, I do a lot of work there, which is amazing.
Like also crows.
And crows, yeah. Now I work at crows. Yes. And it's a process, but I don't usually work in rep, which is interesting to note. So sometimes a bit more freedom. Anyways, in costume, reading the play, so important. Reading it several times, reading it with the director, really analyzing what's happening. There's Katie Mitchell has a process of breaking down the script into things that people say about themselves, about each other. There's a sort of like more straightforward process of like actually analyzing the text and which you can use, and there's other processes of being more poetic and breaking down like what you think each character feels in each moment, for example, and like these are just different ways of making your decisions less general, more specific, and more easier to communicate with the director. I recommend reading things that directors read because that's how they're learning how to like work with text, and pretty much designers are just a different kind of designer or director. But reading the text and like really having a hold on it is helpful. And then in costume, usually it's period of some kind, even if it's like the 80s. So do a lot of research online. At the library, the reference library is great for costume. They have so many strange clippings, like magazine clippings that people have like stapled to a card and labeled and like put in a file, and you can go find them. To get a sense of silhouette or color scheme, like just generally in the back of my mind. But it's unrealistic to expect to build everything. So after doing sketches, prelim sketches with the director, general idea, like a palette usually, I try and keep things really general, because what I end up doing is after rehearsals start and we have people's measurements, so sometimes it's quite compacted, like you meet the actor, they look completely different from their headshot, for example. I met an actor today and I was like, he's so small and tiny, and this other actor's like huge, and I didn't realize. And now, as they rehearse, I'll be out of the room shopping. And shopping can be frustrating because the palettes that are in season are not the palettes that you wanted, so you have to go to Value Village, even if you do have money to not go to Value Village. So it's, I think, training your eye to a concept, like trying to hold on to something shared with your collaborators, even when you're out in the world collecting. And then usually it's best if you can collect a lot of things so that when you're in a rehearsal or a fitting with actors, you can react to what they're saying and how they're feeling, and then you're not like really early limiting yourself to one look. And being very flexible. Like having these strong ideas, but then also reacting to changes in the room and reacting to how actors actually feel and look in clothes, which is always so malleable, depending on the person and things you don't expect. So being really reactive.
Cool.
And then working with cutters and seamstresses and always hiring them, especially if you're not one yourself. And even if you are one yourself, hiring someone else so that you're not doing two people's jobs, very important.
Yep.
And then
That's a question.
doing all of your returns and all of
Personally,
your paperwork
or-
and getting a check before you buy all the costumes on your credit card.
Very important.
And, keeping the receipts and keeping your originals and not giving them to the company just because they say, oh, we need originals, and give them photocopies, because you will be, especially if you're getting petty cash, because that can look like income on your taxes, unless you're like, this was petty cash, and then I returned it to here are my receipts to prove that this is a transaction.
Well, that's a good.
Summarizing all
that.
of this stuff.
Damn. Taxes and stuff.
Things you don't learn in school.
Right? Yeah, I don't get to that.
And that usually happens after opening. So it's a very long process.
Fair enough.
That's an overview of costume.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Just a very thin overview. Yeah.
This whole thing is a thin overview of being a designer. Alex, what about projections?
Projections specifically, yeah.
Specifically.
It might be more interesting to look at projections because they're generally kind of more complex than sound is. I don't want to offend any sound designers or draw any.
You can talk about sound too.
Yeah, I can talk about sound, but it's interesting to look at projection because the amount of time that's required to build a sequence or build a cue or something like that. So I'm always trying to work with either original material or material that's under license or that's in the public domain, because you always have to presume that the show is going to be wildly successful and will tour around, and then someone famous will show up to that and go, hey, I'm from UB40 and please don't use red wine, or I'm going to send you a cease and desist letter. So presuming that it's going to be successful, and especially the restrictions. What's that?
Has that ever happened to you?
Not yet. Not yet.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait.
Well, but being a filmmaker and having things broadcast, there's a whole different level of permissions required, and it has to go through lawyers, which then go to insurance companies, and then come back to the lawyers, and every little piece. It's called chain of titles. You have to go up and down the chain to figure out who owns this thing. So, I mean, in video design, setting expectations is a huge thing in terms of communication with the director. And communication, so I teach at NTS, and one of the first things that I say in kind of the core course in video design is that there are two things that'll drive you crazy in this business, and one is cables and the other is people. And it's pretty true, which just points to the need for communication on all sides, the need to always be respectful, and also that's where things go wrong, right? Is in communication and expectations. That's where things break down. Is understanding. I mean, there's soft things like I just met Michael and yeah, like. We're gonna have brunch tomorrow, I'm sure. But or I'm just kidding. But no, I mean just the interrelation aspect of how to pick up what somebody's putting down. And in the process of doing video design, one of the hardest things is to come in late in the process. Like you get a late call in the process, and you're like, I can give you only so much. That I can build, but like really so I read the script once, I note kind of any really obvious things that I'm like, okay, that has to happen, and I kind of have some ideas for myself, like how did I respond emotionally to this? What was my experience of this? So I note some of those things down, and then I have a conversation with the director, and that's where getting on a similar page is an evolving process, but it's also important in that meeting to get as much of the sense of what the director wants this play to be about. What is it about? What's the theme? In what sort of world is it? Get as much information. And often directors, may know a lot of stuff, but often directors don't know a lot of stuff, and they're sorting it out themselves. So working with conditional language, saying, might it be about this? It might be about this. Could be about that. I think it might have this. So just having that initial conversation to kind of get generally on the same page. And that makes the director, I think, relax in a way, so that you're like, okay, we're artists working together to kind of get somewhere, right? And then rereading, going through, noting anything. So I'm working off paper a lot, and sourcing sort of inspiration images or images that kind of look like that, and throw that in the Dropbox, and then they can have a look at it. And then, but it really depends so much. Some in video, some is so systems focused, and some is more about the content. I try and work just with one projector if I can get away with it, or but then you're often having conversations with lighting designers, with costume, to try and figure out, because video is really kind of this meeting point where you're working in graphic design, you're working in lighting, and you're working with sound sometimes, and so you're doing all that. But you also have to relate to the TD and the PM quite a bit, because projectors cost a lot of money, and so you have to figure out what can you afford.
All of that.
What's that?
I said, all of that, Alex.
Yeah. No, you have to keep them in the loop, and you have to come back to the director and say, at that distance, projection, because a lot of people think projectors are just all kind of one thing, you put it up.
But no, it is astonishing how many people think that a projector is a projector is a projector.
Yeah.
So different.
So, for example, a touring show that, and one of the key questions is this thing going to tour? Because knowing that, you need to know a lot about distances. You need to build the show in relationship to the distances, which means talking to the lighting designer, which means where is this projector going to sit. So there's a lot of math involved in terms of trying to figure out where the optimal position is and how many projectors you can afford and get away with and travel with, right? So you want highest resolution. There's a lot of system design in terms of projectors are usually made to just, you have a computer and you've got this projector, but signal paths are incredibly important. Projectors are not built for long cable runs, so then then you have communication problems. And communication, no matter what happens, once you've gone through all this process and you've been in rehearsal, when you get in there, you always have to build in room for all your paperwork to be off. So one of the basic things is I say never be on either end of your zoom. So you have a zoom lens. If you're at the back of your zoom, this happened at factory once, and somebody else brought in, it was a PM for somebody who brought in a projector. I was like, okay, well that's what we've got. Well, we can't. It's rear projection. We can't knock out the wall. We don't.
Time to break out the mirrors.
We don't have our shot. It won't fit that thing. Yeah. So that's where a lot of the math comes in, and it needs to. But you need to loop back to the PM and the director and say, if you're going to use one projector at that distance, A, it may not be very bright. B, it'll be really pixelated, and whatever. But then also, you need that gear before day one. You need to test it, because you walk in there and you spark it up and that projector is green. I have a number of workarounds, but the first time I found that problem, I didn't know what to do. What it means is the LCD, it's usually an LCD projector, and it means the blue filter has been burnt out, so you have to, anyway. I could go on
just
that.
Get some minus green and put it on the front.
It doesn't work. I use actually a digital filter now, and I dial it down to -5 or 10 or whatever, a magenta digital filter, and then that gives me my lights.
This is real.
But yeah, I mean, that's the real important part, and it trumps absolutely everything, and it's about that communication with the director, and it's about the communication with the other designers, to really go for the emotional moments. Because I think in the theater, the emotion should lead, and then we should think about it. We should be washed over with something. It should be kind of symphonic. and that we are experiencing something primordial that then we walk away and we go, what the hell did I just see? What the hell did I just experience? And then you have this. So all that technical, all those steps should always keep forefront, because when you walk in as, audience, you're like, I don't really care what you went through, Honestly, you go there for an aesthetic, spiritual, intellectual, philosophical, transformational experience, which we need, we need in order to survive.
Well, actually, that kind of leads into another question I have, and maybe we can start with you as a very logically minded, smart person. At what point in the process do you find yourself integrating sort of the technical budget, the what you have to work with? At what point do you start integrating that information, and how much do you find yourself sort of butting up against that and wanting more?
Really, when I signed the contract, because you're negotiating costs. I need what does the set cost? How many assistants? How many dozens of assistants?
No, but Michael, that's a really
never
good
been
point.
negotiated in a contract
And something that people might
Someone
not
has to
know.
catch my cape when I unfurl it on the no.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good point that people might not know, is that like your budget is also a part of your contract negotiation.
Yeah. What are my expendables? How much money do I have to spend on gobos? How much are the rentals? What's the rentals budget? What's the set budget? How many dollars per person do I have? Per costume do I have?
How much time do you have to do?
How much time? Like, what's the schedule? Like, is it a week? Is a week load in? Is it a 2 week load? Are there previews? Do I have to stage for during the previews? Can I schedule another tech week after that? After the first stage? So really it does start from the beginning. I will say that it does talk. I mean, one of the advantages I think we have, and this is going to be a bit odd to say. One of the advantages we have, I think, in Canada is the limits that are put on us, because it forces us to make choices, and that informs the play from the beginning. It informs your entire design, right? I am a very practical person. I don't tend to think the biggest idea first, because I go, well, that's just crazy. Now, how you get your ideas, I think, is the part that was really the most interesting to me by the end of my tenure. It's important to sort of let your mind go and then come up with ways to sort of pick out what you think the play is about, and building that vocabulary with the director is sort of the first part of that. But all throughout that process, you should. I think every good designer thinks about it from the beginning. I think that there are designers out there that don't do that, and it just causes consternation with the crew, with the production manager, with the technical director, often with the director, because you overpromise. You never want to overpromise, because you will be embarrassed, and you will then be you'll mislead the director, which is a bad idea, because they'll think there's going to be a thing there when there's not. Wasn't that supposed to go up and spin around? No. We're in the backspace. That thing does this and spins around.
It twiggles a little.
It just kind of.
It does a shoot.
Just does one of those in the middle of the. You have a very small revolve, very small. It's a lazy Susan. That's all it does. But you do have to think about these things. I think early on. I think that's part of being a designer, is making those choices, and so. I do it right from the beginning. Now, the technical bits. So I do all of the things that everyone else does. I think it's a much more common process, I think, than I thought it was before I started talking to other designers about their own process. But I use a very simple kind of layout when I'm thinking of ideas, called an Aero concept sheet, which comes from the US ITT standards in the US. And it's very simple. It's just a direction and a declination and a gel number. That's all it is, maybe a gobo. It's a very simple way to organize ideas, and then that sort of translates into systems of lights that are then you attach gear to. So that in that way, you don't have to limit yourself by thinking, I only have 10 lights, what can I do? You sort of think of concepts. If you have more than 10 concepts and you've got only 10 lights, you're kind of in trouble, unless you want to refocus stuff. But you tend to sort of push that away as far as you can, but it never works. It's always in the back of your mind. And I think it's important for it to be there. I think that too many people think big and then don't, and then have to cut stuff. And at that point, I mean, those choices, after you've made all those decisions, having to cut those things that you really care about is really hard. It's like, who's your favorite child, right? And it's really brutal. And so why would you put yourself through that is the point. Like, why would you go, I want 12 of these beautiful Henry of something chairs, and then you go, well, we have, we can't have 12 of those chairs.
And we don't want you to have to cut them, Michael Kruse.
No, of course not. So, what can I then? The next step, the road that leads you down is, how can I accomplish the effect with 3 chairs that I buy at IKEA? And then you think about all the ways, and then that makes you think about, what is it I'm trying to say anyways, right? I went to the Henry XIV thing because it was easy, but is it about opulence? Is it about color? Is it about shape? Is it about profile? Is it about the height of the chair? Is it about arms? Like, is it only the arms that are important? Was that what I was in love with? And I think that those kind of limitations, especially if you bring them on early, inform a choice that feeds the play better, because then you're not falling back on, I can build anything. At Shaw, I used to say, and I still say this, that your process is no different at the big theaters. Your mistakes just cost more money. That's the only difference. And you have to make them sooner. But so I think those limitations are important. So that's why I think it's important to carry those thoughts with you throughout the entire process.
Cool. That's a really good answer to that question.
Yeah. It's like I've thought about it.
Like you've done it before a couple times, maybe. So just for time's sake, I'm gonna turn it over. Audience, do you have questions just before we get into other things? Please.
Echo has more questions.
Echo, get in there.
Okay, but take it up.
How do you?
Thank you. Sorry.
My question is are you guys ADC members, and if you're not, how do you negotiate your contracts, and what are things that we should watch out for, and what really ADC does?
And I'm going to just follow up to this question. One of the reasons we didn't dive really hard into ADC stuff on this panel is because we also do panels on contracts and fees that I encourage you to listen to our previous podcasts on them. But real quick, because that's a whole big question, let's chat about that real quick.
I'm an ADC member. I have been for a while. And in terms of how I deal with my fees, I tend to have a base limit or baseline of this is what the show will cost. And after that, I take into account, after I've been approached to do the show, and talk to the director first on scale and scope. It's like how many performances, everything else. Then I'll adjust based on that. I don't want to go into a situation where I'm getting paid pocket change, but everyone else is getting paid a normal rate, or I'm on profit share and everyone else is getting paid. So just put yourself in the same playing field as everyone else is what I would do, and kind of figure out what your work is worth. Yeah, in terms of trying to make a living, because at the end of the day, design is not just art; it's work as well. So if that's how you're going to pay your rent and put food in your mouth, then you have to make it worth your time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm not an ADC member. I've thought about joining only very recently, because I've become friends with people who hire me, and I find it's harder to have negotiations with friends. But I still use ADC minimums for my negotiations and quote them as industry standards, and that seems to work. I also always negotiate for higher fees, which is hard, but you get better at it. I've never been told I couldn't have more money, ever. So just ask. Also, interesting to note, I came from fine art, where there's a real monetary value placed on art, objects, it's art because I say it is and it's worth a lot of money, that kind of background, which I think is quite different from theater. So I think that gives me a bit of confidence going into those negotiations. So it's interesting to look outside at like how are other people making money and like how can I reorient myself to a place where I'm valued. The other thing I do is I think about how much money I want to make in a year, how much time I want to have on vacation, which is usually not vacation, but like downtime or making my own art. And then so let's say like I want to make $40,000 this year in 48 weeks. So I do some calculations about like how much money I need to make a week. And I use 40 hours a week, even though I work way more, as the budget, like the number to like then divide. And I get hourly, which is like 20. Usually, it should actually be, well, as I'm like, I need to make more money, it goes up. But when I first was starting, it was $21 an hour. So when I go into a contract, I would, which is probably too low, actually. You should probably pay yourself more. But anyways, I paid myself $21 an hour. Going into a contract, I'd divide what they were offering me by 21, see how many hours they were paying me for, and then say, like, I can't really do that design in that many hours, and I deserve to make a living. Don't you agree? And often they were like, yeah. And often they're on salary, these people you're negotiating with, so you can sort of be like, how much money do you make a year? You know?
I will say, as complicated and hard as that sounds, that is something we've consistently been told by good designers, is that's how they do it. Yeah. They look at how much they want to make, and they divide it up, and that's like, that even to me as like a, sort of a semi-professional designer, that sounds really hard to do, but that's something we get told on the contracts and fees panel as well, is that's how good designers do it.
It's a simple calculation. I can write it down for you after.
Yeah.
Maybe post it on the group.
Yeah, we'll post it.
It'll be available in the show notes.
Short answer, I'm not an ADC member, but I really support the organization. I think it's an important organization. And I think it's a good place to have a place where, there's some understood forms of contracts and minimums and also, when need be, a political advocacy arm. I think that's super, super important. The short answer is I have an agent. But it'll be a conversation between him and I, and often what I try and account for is mission creep, because you'll be like, oh, can you do that other thing? Oh, so building that into your calculation, just sort of knowing that, okay, it may be here, but it's probably going to be somewhere about here, and just having that part of your calculation. Often with video, people don't really understand what a video designer does, so it's sound design is a little more of a known quantity. Having worked in film, I don't think there's any shame in asking, because I've made a lot more money in film than I've ever made in theater, and so it's not it's not a problem. But also, thinking about contracts, and thinking about how, sort of package you need and that sort of thing. I think for a few reasons, I think my kind of aesthetic, like I was describing earlier, like looking for silence or looking for moments, leads me to kind of like, can we do that with one thing? Because it'll keep us really focused on the story and on the content. And within one sort of container, I can do so much. I was just, while you were talking, I was, just as an aside, I love quotes. And this is from, if you've been to Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia. If you haven't been, go. It's absolutely amazing. But what was deeply moving was right beside it was a daycare and school for all the Masons that worked there for years and years and years. And on the chalkboard it says, when the building simply has what it needs with the resources available, it has character or dignity, which is the same thing. And I think the modesty of not going too far in a moment leads me to desire to lose things. I want to lose elements of design. I want for the actor to be there in a pool of light or something and just have that moment. Often I find when directors or don't really know what they want. They kind of grab at different things, so maybe here, maybe here, maybe here, instead of sinking to another level and going, what's actually happening in this moment? You know, what's the build here? Where are we going and where do we need to come out of? And how does that sort of dignity and modesty provide the, you know, the Gestalt circle where you're like, it's the electric jump between the 2 points, and you're like, that lack of information or lack of, you know, gives it that. And video in particular can so easily take over a production. We have screens everywhere, so I'm like, let's dial down the saturation. let's you know, I'm a reluctant video designer in that aspect. So I'm like, where is the main course here? The main course is on stage, and if it's going really well, then we don't need a lot of doohickeys. So I try and make things possible for theater companies to, you know, afford that work. It keeps me working, but it also is part of my aesthetic, so I think it works.
So I was an ADC member when I was working full-time as a designer. It's a bit of a, because the community is small enough that you know most of the people in it, you know, after a few years, it did feel like it was an important kind of fraternity to be a part of, or a sorority. Just like it felt like I had made it. Now, I'm also a labor organizer. I'm a steward for QP Local 905, and I just came back from the Canadian Labour Congress, where equity or ACTRA was represented there from the arts. And I think that the ADC, what I found really interesting about this conversation so far is that you use ADC minimums as a standard, and that was a fight that's been happening for a long time to get those sort of accepted. And what's really important about the ADC's work is even though it's not a closed shop, and even though you can't force people to take on the contract, I mean, there is an agreement between ADC and PACT, and if you're an ADC designer, the PACT needs to be using that contract. It doesn't mean PACT can't hire somebody else who's not ADC. And but despite that, the ADC is having an effect on everyone's wages by increasing the floor and setting a minimum standard of this is what this is worth. And so I think that's a great benefit of the organization. Obviously, being a member, you know, funds them, properly. Well, funds them more. And allows them to do that good work. So I think that's important as well. I know that many people, for many years, people thought, what, you know, ADC, it's not a closed shop. What are they going to give me? Like, it's not. I can just take that fee, and I'm a good negotiator, so I can do that kind of work myself. There is the contract is pretty great, and it benefits from everyone else's kind of mistakes in the past, right? So every clause in there is there because something happened on a show in 1985 and everyone got screwed, so we're going to put that clause in there to make sure you don't get screwed. So I think that kind of legacy is important to support. Now, as well, there's a movement now online. If you listen to, I keep plugging the podcast, I'm sorry, but Richard Farron, the new episode is out, and Richard Farron is a sound designer and composer, and he and I spoke about his efforts to tackle this issue head on, and he started a Facebook group called
the Designers Guild.
The Designers Guild. Thank you, which has about 400 members currently. 400 members. When I would join ADC, there was 120 people who were members back in the mid to late 90s. So 400. There are, first of all, can you believe there's 400 designers in Canada? Like, that's incredible. What they had been doing is collecting fee information, and so there's a database you can go to see what everyone made at the Tarragon for the big main stage show in October, for the last 3 years, which is really helpful. At the same time, it's a bit depressing because, just to reiterate a conversation that Richard and I had, designers, because it's not a closed shop, because we have not been negotiating in complete solidarity, i.e. not putting up with people who are non-union doing the work, or failing to attract everyone to the same job, designers have bore the brunt of the cuts for the last 15 years. And while actor salaries and union salaries in IA and administrative salaries, including artistic directors and general managers, have continued to sort of probably go up because they negotiate their contract every year and they actually can point to a salary and say, I'm worth $86,000 a year or $100 and some odd dollars, whatever the number is. Because there are artistic directors in Canada making over $100,000 a year. I think that's true for the larger places. Can you imagine making $100,000 a year as a designer? Like I don't think anybody is. Let alone an actor, or a director. IA is a whole other thing, but the reason that they have benefited from this is because they have been very. They're a union. They've got a closed shop. Mm-hmm. So I think the best idea to start with is to talk to your fellows and find out what everyone's making. It's a conversation that we never had with each other 20 years ago. It was very awkward when we first started collecting the information because nobody wanted to talk about it because no one wanted to tell people how little they made in that show or maybe how much they made, right? I negotiated $6,000 for that contract and, you didn't. Or whatever it was, right? It was just an uncomfortable conversation. So I think talking to your friends, talking to your fellows in the same level that you are working at, whether you're a beginner or a new designer, is important as well.
Right. Just to tag on to that, I think there's a little bit of stigma in if you want to be an artist, it should be about the art. It shouldn't ever be about the money, but the fact of the matter is, it is. If you want to do this and have it put food on your plate, be transparent about it. It's not a dirty subject unless you make it so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it.
And on bearing the brunt, like the OAC cut all arts organizations by 5% in the last organizational funding round. So, these kinds of things get handed down to those who have the weakest bargaining power. So it's important to say, hey, I'm not, that's a line I can't budge. But it is also hard for people who are also looking for work, and you're like, do I accept this? Because I need, I'm getting started, and I need. This might be the first gig I get, and it's a good notch on the resume or whatever. But it's funny. There's a few people who I, have done small designs for as favors and have promised me to, next time. And, they've gone on to do Mervish and other things, and I've been like, okay, so I never got that call? Yeah.
Who's the next?
Yeah. So, that's why it's like, as you go up, don't, it's worth something.
Yeah.
I think all that is really good to talk about over beer because we're getting into real heavy stuff.
We're all leaning on the desk now.
And also, there are about a million things I would have liked to continue talking about. So maybe we'll continue this conversation both at the bar and on Facebook. But
maybe we need to have another panel.
I think we do need to have this is real good panel.
This is good.
But we're gonna end off with I had two questions. Two questions I wanted to ask to end off. So I'm going to combine them, but like 2 sentences on each of these things. I want you guys to tell me. Yeah, I want you guys to tell me one piece of advice you would give to new incoming designers, and I want you to give me like 1 or 2 sentences on the best or one of the best designs you've ever seen. Your favorite design.
Oh, your favorite design.
Start from that end.
As far as design goes, when you're starting out, be bold, and the audience will go and follow you. Make those choices, make them strong, and you'll learn from them. As far as show favorite designs recently, if you didn't see Prince Hamlet, that was my favorite recent design, I think.
That was great.
Yeah.
And that's the Lorenzo design.
That's the Lorenzo design.
Yeah.
And Andre Dutoit for lighting.
And Andre, Andre.
Andre. My favorite designs, I think it's a lot of like specific designs that come to mind. Is that what you want to hear about?
Yeah. Like shout somebody out. Shout
or
something
like
out. Like somebody's work
my
that
God.
you really
Okay,
liked
so
recently.
Julie Fox.
Oh, Julie Foxy.
Yeah.
She just did a show called What It's Like for Heidi Strauss, who's a dance artist.
Oh, yeah.
It was so beautiful. It was in this upstairs space, and it transformed the space like several times.
Into many spaces.
And totally hit me, like blindsided me every time. And just her, she's amazing. I think she's great. Totally surprising. Advice to young designers. I don't know. Talk to each other, like call each other, get all of our numbers, call us.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Great advice.
Yeah, like I think there's lots of like situations that need specific advice for, but yeah, talk to each other and be nice to each other. That's what I'd say.
Good advice.
Don't be intimidated by anyone, but treat everyone with the respect you give the person in your family you give the most respect to. Follow the meaning of what it is you're, because that's all what it's all about. Trying to think of, I remember this Lepage design. I'm trying to go back and think about what really got me, and I think this early Lepage design from Tectonic Plates that talked about how it was so much about an emotional world. It kind of, I'm not a huge Lepage fan because I feel like there are some things that are really well achieved. I haven't seen 887, which I really want to see. But the Tectonic Plates talked a lot about the internal world and talked a lot about physical and sexual abuse, something that I care a lot about. And so it was a lot about water and it used kind of hydraulics to show how the world could be upended by these and destabilized by these moments. And so that, I think, got me on a core place. And I think when it does, when the physical metaphor or the lighting metaphor or whatever is used reaches that place where where it can only be said by that thing, right? And it showed me, I think, that when we talk about emotion, there's something about the geography of emotion. What it is you wore, or where you were, or memory, because we're often talking about memory so much in plays, right? We're often talking about going back and how that impacts your present. So that's way beyond 2 sentences. But yeah, what is it about the geography of that play? What is it about that? And yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, I'll trail off there.
Cool.
Your trailing off is pretty awesome, though.
Oh, thanks, man.
Also, I want to point out that I'm
You're the
sure
best at that.
that like fridge or whatever has gone out during you talking.
Oh, it's
more
always every
times,
time. It's
like, on
Alex.
you.
Aware of
Like just
all
like
the
let's be
noises.
silent. Let's listen to what Alex has
We
to
have
say.
more noises
It's
than
like
usual. It's a new
10
venue.
times. Real
Okay,
good.
there's no radio in the mics like there is
Really
at Past Mine.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to, again, be practical.
Do it.
In my advice, which is always have a backup plan. Now, and there's
Like
two
medical
aspects
school.
to that. There's a backup plan as a designer, like when that fails on stage, what am I going to do instead? When the director says it's ugly, what am I going to do instead? When the gel doesn't arrive on time, what am I going to do instead? Always have a backup plan. Even when you're led down, especially when you're led down the garden path. Oh, this will be great. We'll do this and this and this. Why don't we do it this way? I've done it that way before and it hasn't worked. Well, we should do it that way. okay. So you do it that way and go, and then on my back pocket is the way we should be doing it. And then when it fails, not that you want it to fail, sometimes it doesn't fail. Most of the time it fails. When it fails, you go, oh, look at the thing we can do. Have a backup plan. Have a backup plan for work. What are you going to do if there's no work this summer? Be skilled. Pick up other skills. You're a costume designer. Maybe you can cut. Maybe you can HOD a wardrobe someplace. Maybe you can be a buyer at the opera while you do the other work. If you're an LD, you can do events. You can go where. The way I separated was I went to. I did work with PRG, with all this. I did all the events work, and that's where I did all my tech work and stayed up to speed on the high tech stuff. And then I did all my design work in theater and dance and opera. So have a backup plan. And then as far as my favorite design, it's not Canadian, I'm sorry, but and I just had to look it up. It was Verdi's A Masked Ball from 1999 on the Bregnitz Festival on Lake Constantine. You guys know this?
Oh.
Bregenz Festival, sorry. You may know it from Quantum of Solace, the James Bond film, but there was a webcam they have that would show the scene changes, and it's a giant book on a lake, book like the size of the Canadian stage, not Canadian stage, O'Keefe Center, which is now called the Hummingbird Center, the old opera house, and it's on a lake, and there's a giant. 60-foot, 70-foot skeleton, with the arms, and he had little follow spots in his eyes. It was the best thing ever invented. Anyways, I just thought the scale of that was just incredible. Awesome. Anyways, those are my things.
That's really
it's okay. Thanks for kicking it to a James Bond movie to kick off this panel in an epic way.
Yeah, that's really great. Quick shout out. My favorite design recently was Carried Away on the Crest of a Wave, which Pip was.
I was the house tech on that show, and I was wet literally all the time. I mean, like physically wet. It was in a
that
pond.
show was really good. And my advice to designers is listen to this podcast again, because this is a real good one. We got a lot of really great information out of this. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
If you have questions, please.
Michael Kruse has a point.
Michael just won.
Oh, yes, we have to remember
the thing, and then we'll do the thing after.
Okay, if you have more questions, we encourage you please to continue talking about this at the bar. Grab a drink. These guys might be here for a minute. We got to clean up anyway, so grab a drink and ask more questions.
I mean, Shannon said she'd give you her number, so
right, that's really cool. And also to tip your bartenders and thank you to the Theater Center for having us. We always forget.
Yeah, we always forget to mention the fact that the Bellows is a not-for-profit, which means we are also a non-money sort of scenario. We make all these events pay what you can because we want everybody to be able to come. But if you could pay something, it would go a long way towards making this not a problem for us.
You can write it off on your taxes.
And you can, we don't give tax receipts.
You can't do that, you should. The Bellows should do that for you.
How would we do that? People give us gratuity. I don't know if that's tax deductible.
You can write off your beers for your taxes.
Professional development.
Taxes.
We want to mention our next panel. And
we definitely do because it's on June 19th, Chris. It's June 19th. We don't know where it is yet, but I bet you anything it will be.
Really probably here because this has been wonderful.
We also have Theater Pass Prime. We don't wish to say we don't. It's just that Theater Pass Prime is not available for the next couple of months. So we're here.
And it is.
It's called Don't Be That Guy.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that person.
It's true stories of horror. From tech and production.
Yeah, we're all gonna share.
Guys, the really dirty, seamy stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I got some.
I know. I've been writing them in my diary.
Yeah. So think of fun stories to tell about. Don't be that guy. Don't be that person. And that's on June 19th.
That's on June 19th, right here.
Location TBA, probably
and
here.
then, are we ready? Are we ready to say the thing?
I think we are. Yeah. Let's go.
Oh, the thing.
So, we're also going to be part of the tent program at the Fringe Festival this year.
Yeah.
We're going to be presenting a number of short pieces, and we're hoping to also podcast record those so that we have a way to get them out to a larger audience than the 40 youths who get to be part of the tent project. So that's something we're doing at the Fringe. Also, Chris is at the Theater Pass for my backspace. Yep. I'm at the Theater Center Incubator, that little room right over there. So you can always find us here during Fringe and also the club.
Yeah.
Hey, the club.
Hang out with us at the club. Yeah, we'll be at the tent all the time.
Yeah, we love it. Come ask us tech advice.
Thank you guys so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You were a really great audience. I see there's a lot of you here who haven't been here before. We love you.
And that was another presentation of The Bellows, Getting Started in Design, recorded on May 15th at the Theatre Centre in Toronto, Ontario. The next episode of The Title Block will be a conversation with set and costume designer Peter Hartwell. The music for this podcast is by Vern Good, with voiceover by Gabriel Cropley. Please go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. It'll help get the word out about this podcast and share the history of theatre design in Canada. And you can follow us on Twitter at TheTitleBlockCA and on Facebook.com/The Title Block Podcast. You can send comments and requests by email to thetitleBlock@gmail.com. And don't forget that if you like the show, please support us on patreon.com. I'm Michael Kruse, and I'll see you next time on The Title Block.